Honorable members of the Society of Fellows, outgoing and incoming members of the board, members of the Philippine Institute of Supply Management. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Alam niyo po, excited ako nung nakikinig ako kay Ricky dun sa mga ng konting maikling profile tungkol sa organization niyo. At nung naintindihan ko po, supply management. Sabi ko, sayang. Sabi niya, bakit? Sabi ko, bakit kayo lang? Dapat nagre-relate kayo, nagko-connect kayo with the government procurement practitioners. Because I think one way of, alam niyo naman, ang passion ko talaga gobyerno lang. One way of really reaching out is really working with those inside government who are really holding the affairs of the society, of the country. Okay? Well, of course, for me, it's always exciting to work with people who work in supply management. If you're in government, you will be the most sought after. Diba? Meron pong biruan dyan eh. Pag doon daw sa mga nightclub, meron lang daw iilang incidents na yung mga babae ay tumatayo at nagmamadaling magbukas ng pintuan. Dalawang professions lang daw. Either the engineer or the supply officer. O, diba? Nagmamadali daw silang magbukas ng pinto. Kaya lang medyo nalulungkot din po ako. Kasi nung pagpasok ko po, when upon entering the hall, I look at the signage outside. How do you call this one? The mission and vision, like that. And I said, buti pa sila masyadong organized. And also, I saw their social responsibility, ethical leadership, or whatever, something like that. And I said, I felt like parang medyo malayo yung counterpart niya sa government. And I felt so sad, no? I felt so sad. Sabi ko parang ang layo. How I wish I am the same room with the same group of people working on supply management, but this time in the government. And I hope that the supply people in government will be the one talking about their own mission and vision, and talking about their own activities, and talking about their own programs. Sadly, inside government, supply people talk about contracts, kickbacks, bribes, and how do we facilitate things. Kaya nga meron tayong tongpats, meron tayong porsyento, at kung ano-ano pa, no? So it makes me a bit sad. Now, I started in COA in 1984, resigned in 2006. I never thought that I'm going back to government again. When I resigned in 2006, I thought that was the end of a public career. At itinapong ko lahat ng working paper ko with the thought that I will never work again in the area of governance and fighting corruption. Pero siguro talaga may mga taong ipinanganak na kambal ang ganitong kapalaran. So, noong 2006 ay nag-resign ako dahil nga I wanted to pursue the case. State Auditor 5 po ako noon. I rose from the rank. I started as auditing aide. It was very, very interesting to find out. When you are, galing po ako sa probinsya eh. I'm from Tayabas, Quezon. So, in the province, parating sasabihin ng nanay mo, anak, mag-accounting ka. Kasi malaki ang pera dyan, malaki ang kita ng mga accountant, di ba? So, talagang pinagkahirap-hirapan mong mapaaral ka ng accounting at pagkatapos nag-review pa kami. And during our review, iinom pa kami ng Cativit, yung gamot para wag kang makatulog. Para lang wag magsara yung mga mata namin so I can finish the reading materials. And upon passing the board, ako pala yung pupunta lang sa gobyerno, di ba? But I have naman a choice. I have a choice. Siguro talaga true love ako sa government. And my father, he feels like there's no public service as in government service. So I joined the government na. I was so surprised. Sabi ko, Diyos ko, matapos ko mag-aral ng 4 na taon at mag-review ng mahabang 6 na buwan, sunugin ang kilay ko dito, ako pala ay tatanggap ng tumataginting na 600 piso isang buwan. 700 pala, 700 and 600. And so, it's 700 pesos a month. I couldn't forget that. Because hindi pa ko kasya sa pambayad ng board and lodging ko at saka sa aking pamasahe. Because my first audit assignment is Philippine Tourism Authority. And I am residing in Fairview. 11 pesos yung one-way na pamasahe from Fairview to Calao. So you could just imagine, kulang yung 700 pesos including the board. But you know what is most interesting is that kahit 700 pesos lang yung sweldo mo, magaan na magaan ang iyong puso. Punong-puno. You're filled with contentment because you know you're doing a lot. Hindi naman alam ng mga ino-audit namin na 700 pesos lang buwan-buwan ang aming sinasahod. And we're already talking with managers, you know, and with presidents of corporation. And I hope it doesn't show with our face and with the way we carry ourselves that we're only being paid 700 pesos. But I think the moral of the story is that I have never felt like I'm in need because I'm always happy with what I'm doing. Until nakita po natin, syempre yung ginagalawan ng sistema, maraming pagkukulang, as I've said, ano? Kung ano yung pagkukulang ngayon, yung nasa loob din ang nakakaalam. The practitioners are the ones who knows exactly what are the ills and weaknesses of the system. And they're also the ones who know how to correct it. And yet they never do it, right? Because they're profiting from it. They're taking some comforts out of it. So I learned to live that kind of life until after I searched my soul and I said, something must be wrong. There must be another perspective of audit. There must be another reason why audit should be conducted. So I said, if audit is just for purposes of compliance with laws, rules, and regulations, then simple lang. Wala sigurong makukulong dahil lahat nagagawa ng paraan para maging allegedly in accordance with laws, rules, and regulations. But you know that there is a bigger side for it. And I think that ito siguro yung nag-push sa akin to what I did. I started the audit of the Armed Forces of the Philippines in 2004. Talagang hindi ako para dito. I was then assigned at the Office of the President, sa Presidential Chief of Staff, doing some lifestyle check. O, diba? Kami yung unang nagsimula ng lifestyle check against the Bureau of Internal Revenue Personnel, the Bureau of Customs, and the Department of Public Works and Highways. No? Marami nang ayaw tumingin sa akin. Okay. So that's it. I was with then Presidential Chief of Staff Rigoberto Tiglao. And then somebody called me, sabi sa akin, Heights, kailangan mong bumalik ng COA because the Office of the Ombudsman will be conducting an audit of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Hindi ko po makalimutan yung sinabi sa akin ni Ombudsman Marcelo noon. Heidi, sabi niya, we will make history. Ay, history nga. Hindi ko naman po sinasadya. Kaya ho, ina-accuse ako ng ambisyosa. Pinaghandaan ko daw ho itong posisyon na ito, 5 taong ago pa, ano, na nakaraan. And so we did start the audit. And you know, you will be very, very excited if you are part of the audit because majority of the source of are supply contracts, right? There are several supply contracts. You know, it's very interesting. Supply contracts in the government will give you a lot of fun stories and a lot of lessons, actually. There is one supply contract for the supply of firearms. Noong nag-inspection po kami ng warehouse, nandun pa yung firearms. Sabi ko, dami nito ah. Anong ginagawa nito? Ma'am, hindi po natin pwedeng gamitin. Eh, bakit po? Kasi po hindi po fit dun sa bala na minamanufacture natin sa bataan. Sana hindi ho nangyayari sa inyo ito, ano? Mawawala ko yung paghanga ko sa inyo kung meron kayong ganito. You know, it's so painful and I couldn't imagine bakit tayo bumibili ng firearms na hindi naman pala bagay yung bala na ginagawa natin, no? Isa lang po yan. Pag tumingin ka ho sa mga intelligence and confidential funds, which is the topic this morning at Senate, before I run here to your affair, they will always be saying, oh, we need, in order to promote peace and order in our place, barangay ek, etc., in a faraway land of Tralala, we require the purchase of cellular phone. Yung pinaka-high-tech na cellular phone. Sige, bilihan sila, high-tech. Meron pang ano bang tawag dito. Yun po ang tanong. Nung maalaman-laman, pagtingin namin sa inspection, naka-box, bakit po? Ay, wala pa pong signal. So, you know, there are really certain supply contracts. And it's, shall we say, it's embarrassing or it's painful that there are contracts being entered into without the interest of the government in mind. And I think this is the topic for today. And if I may just share with you, personally, I think there are two essential but invisible elements of governance. And these are just my personal, it's not within the book. This is based on my experience. One, of course, is citizenship. And I couldn't help but discuss governance with citizenship. I think each of us in the room should never forget that we are first citizens before we become procurement practitioners. For the auditors, I'm always telling them, you are first a citizen before you become an auditor. So that means to say, once you are given an office order to conduct an audit of a certain local government, you're not doing so in compliance to an assignment order. You're doing so because you are a stakeholder. You being a citizen first before an auditor. And so I think my message is plain and simple. That let me just remind you that we are all citizens of this country and we are all, unfortunately or fortunately, we only have one country. Kahit po tayo magpabalik-balik abroad, we're all going back. Now, as citizens, dapat nakikita natin na yung pangangailangan natin, hindi lang nagtatapos sa sarili nating pamilya. Yung ating pangangailangan ay should go beyond the needs of the family. And I think this is my passion. You know how I was reared up by my father? My father is a policeman, doon po sa bayan ng Tayabas. Lagi ko po kinikwento, pag binibigyan po kami ng baon, although hindi ko po ito na-realize nung buhay pa siya, nung patay na sa ako naalala, hindi ko kami inaabutan ng baon na i-handle sa'yo, hindi po ganon. Pupunta ka po dun sa room niya. And then since na ano lang naman kami, meron pong isang lata doon, meron pong lata, there's a can full of coins, and all you have to do is to pick up your share. Ang tanong ko po, there are lots of coins in that can, but I was never tempted to get more than my share. And now if I can recall, I said, bakit kaya hindi ko sinobrahan yung coins ko? Or bakit hindi ko sinobrahan yung dapat kong kuhanin? It is because of the realization that if I will get something in excess of my share, a brother or a sister will be deprived of a meal. Sana ho, kung ganito rin ang tingin natin, at malalaman natin, we are reminded that we are all citizens, and we are all stakeholders in this country, then that means na kung ano po yung kinukuha natin is an extension of ano rin ang pangangailangan ng nasa kabilang line. So you are supply managers, and you know very well, syempre you are indeed holding some power. I know very well that the suppliers will be running after you. And I will not be surprised. I know that there will be instances that you will be dealing with government. And I hope that this time, when you deal with government, you can see the government as a conglomeration or as a consolidation of all the needs of all its citizens. So that kung makita po natin na gusto po natin magkaroon ng profit, makita rin natin na mas marami pang iba na nangangailangan din ng pagparap din naman sa kanilang sarili. Na ngayon, nandiyan ka pa rin ang ginagawa mo, wala pa rin nagbabago. And she was just surprised. And I told her, you know, anak, when I started the audit of Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao, I was pregnant with her. And I got the conviction of the regional governor as affirmed by the Supreme Court when she was already 16 years old. This is exactly the case that we have right now. But the reason is, but the question rather is, should we indeed lose hope, di ho ba? Noon ho sa isang meeting namin sa Association of Major Superior Religious Organization, tinanong po ako, how is governance right now? Is there something happening in anti-corruption? Sabi ko, alam niyo po, kahit na pa alam ko na lahat dito nagdududa, lahat dito nagtatanong, wala naman nangyayari, di ba? I said, I would like to be selfish this time. I would like to believe meron. At sana po meron. You know why? Because it is difficult to stay inside. It is difficult to stay inside. It is difficult to stay inside and be hopeless. You know, before I go back to government, I was already working with Asian Development Bank. Hindi ko po pinagkakaila. It is my dream nung ako po'y bata pa. Pero hindi ko po akalain na when I was already there, nagsawa na rin po ako sa buhay ko at sinabi ko, I should go back to government. And exactly, binigay po ng Diyos sa akin kung ano yung gusto ko. So in 2010 nga po, nabalitaan ko po yung plea bargain, at hindi po ako nakatulog. Sabi ko, grabe naman to, matapos kong isubmit yung report, matapos kong mag-appear sa mga hearings sa Sandigan Bayan, even if I'm no longer an auditor, ay bigla sila mag-e-enter into a plea bargain. You know, I just wanted to share the experience, if only to share with you how I bank on with my being a citizen and at the same time trying to reach out for a deeper level of spirituality so I can give something more for the country. It was the most difficult period because I have just joined formally as a fixed-term employee of the Asian Development Bank. Before, consultant lang po ako. Pero August 2010, nag-fixed-term employee po ako. Remember, December 2010, magre-resign ako. And I have to tell my children, anak, isusoli na natin yung ating ID. At ang aking pong asawa, nagkakwento pa sa akin, Heights, hindi pa ako nakakapagpalaser ng mata. Ano ba ito? But it was most difficult. I know exactly I could not talk if I would not resign. But resigning is not a better or an easy alternative. You know why? Because even after 22 years in government, I wasn't able to build a house or to buy a house. O diba? Nakabili lang ako ng bahay August 2010. So nakapag-file ako ng bank loan. And yet December 2010, magre-resign ako. And I'm already 48 years old. That means to say, wala nang kukuha sa akin sa trabaho. It was most difficult. So kailangan ko magdasal ng gusto for the sake of sanity. And in my prayer, nagkaroon po ako ng plea bargain. Lord, sana ho, papanalunin mo po ako sa loto. Alam ko po ba na ako pala ay magiging witness kanina, di ba? Doon sa kanilang loto at marami pang iba. Ang aking pong deal, pag nanalo po ako sa loto, papayag po ako, ibibigay ko po yung report sa Senado, pagkatapos lilipad kami ng mga anak ko together with my family. That's not selfish, right? That's practical. That's reasonable for every mom, right? So I said, I'll give the report, I'll bring my all my children, and we will fly to the US, no? Araw-araw po ako nagsisimba. At bawat readings po ay aking tinatandaan. Yun po ang aking itinataya. So pag sinabi po Mark chapter 5, verse 8 to 13, ay talaga po namang isusulat ko at tatayaan ko po. 5, 8, 13, irarambol ko pa po yun. 8 plus 5, 13 plus 13, 26, and 5 plus 8, whatever. No? Awa po ng Diyos. Buong Disyembre, magkakalagitnaan na ng Disyembre, hindi pa rin po ako nanalo. That was the 700 million na lotto draw. So, nung hindi pa po ako nanalo, na-realize ko, teka, kahit po yung scratch it, pinatulang ko, no, yung 50 pesos, talagang hopeless akong manalo, no, die hard ako na mananalo ako. Nung hindi na po ako nanalo, at na-realize ko po na mukhang libo-libo na rin ang ginagastos sa katataya ko sa lotto. Sabi ko po, siguro, I have to accept. Hindi pwedeng mangarap ng malinis na pamahalaan na wala kang iaambat. And then I said, okay Lord, I agree. But then do not give me any more time, any split because pag binigyan mo pa ako ng kahit konting panahon na mag-isip, hindi na ako papayag. So ang ginawa ko po, nag-type na ako ng resignation ko, December 21. Pampasko, And saka po ako umuwi sa bahay. Saka ko po kinausap yung asawa ko at sinabi kong, I resign. You know, many of you, there are many men in this room. How would you feel? Diba? Parehas ba kayo ng feeling ng asawa ko? Ang hirap sa'yo, matigas ang ulo mo eh. Sino ba ang nagpapantalon, diba? So talagang isusumpa niyo yung babaeng katulad ko na wala na daw po akong ginawa kundi mag-isip tungkol sa katiwalian at maghanap ng paraan kung paano ito labanan. Mula umaga hanggang gabi, din daw ang aming pinag-uusapan. Kaya talagang panis na daw siya sa akin pag ako ang kaharap niya. And then this time, nag-resign pa, And he kept on telling me, you know, there are 3 kids, there are 3 lives na nasa gitna natin. And you just fail to think about them. Hindi naman po ako makasalita dahil alam ko kung ako'y may kasalanan. Until after, siguro kailangan humahanap ka ng buwelo. Ganyan ang strategy ng mga misis, di ba? Huwag kang pahuhuli na talo ka. Kailangan hahanap ka ng counter strategy. You'll find out what is the weakness of your husband. And, di ba, parang supply management din yan eh. What is the weakest link? And whichever is the weakest link, you attack the weakest link, right? That's a good strategy. So I said, Roy, in the early 80s, you left your family, right? Oo. Eh kasi naman lahat ng kabataan nung namundok. O kaya nga eh. Di ba yung nanay mo, umiiyak, hinahanap ka, tumigil ka sa pag-aaral? Oo naman. Sabi ko, karma mo ako. Ako yung karma mo. And I was all the more angry. And sabi niya, anong karma? Karma ka dyan. Karma ka lang? Eh nun, single ako. Ngayon, we are married. We are a family and there are 3 kids. And I told them, pero you're only thinking of the 3 kids. What about the more than 90 million Filipinos who deserve to know? Pero hindi ko pa rin nabola, talagang hindi ako kinakausap. And so, kunyari, nagbait-baitan ka kasi may kasalanan ka, konting luto, konting hugas ng plato, para kunyari masipag sa bahay. So, after some few days, lumabas na po si George Ragusa. Nung nanonood na ho yung anak ko kay George, sabi po nila, Ma'am, nakaka-touch naman. May sakit siya, pero tumutulong siya sa bayan. Tapos sabi ko, bakit anak? Ang nanay niyo hindi. Sabi po niya, hindi ko nakasalita yung anak ko. Tapos, doon po nagsalita yung husband ko. Sabi po niya, you know, not everyone is given the chance to tell their truth. In fact, marami, bago makapagsalita ng kanilang katotohanan, ay nawala ng buhay. Your mom must be lucky. She's not only given the chance to tell the truth, but also, she's given the limelight. Di ho ba, hinahabol ako ng GMA7, ABS-CBN, at ang lahat-lahat na kasama na ang tik-tik. Di ho ba? So, in that case, I was surprised because my husband told my children, from now on, we will go to the Congress and the Senate, and this is now a family decision. Nobody will blame mom. Nobody will say that this is because of what you did. Akala ko po yun na yun. Sometimes in supply management, you look at it, you sit a bit and then try to relax, and then you find out, okay na ba to? Is the systems working? Parang gano'n na. And then you get the assurance na mukhang okay na. Until after you have it running, biglang makikita mo, uy, may breakdown pala. Ganun din po ang nangyari sa buhay namin. Marami pong threats, maraming pressures, and I have to be separated from my family. And in the midst of the separation, ang hirap. Kasi yung anak mo, kahiwalay mo, yung asawa mo, kahiwalay mo rin. And you couldn't get in touch with them by text kasi sinasabi, madali daw ma-trace, and I have to cut my messages because it's dawning on my children. And I think it is then that gusto ko na lang bumalik sa Kongreso at sabihin ko, hello, Your Honor, nagsinungaling po ako. Kasi po napakahirap. And then I realized, sabi ko, ano ba yung hindi mo kayang ibigay bilang isang nanay? Palagay ko, mas mahirap po sigurong ibigay. Mas madaling maintindihan kung nanay ka, na kaya mong ibigay yung buhay mo for the sake of your children. I think no one will argue with me in this room, di ba? Lahat ng mami dito, when it comes to your children, ibibigay mo lahat, di ba? Sabi po sa commercial, di ba? Gagawin mo yung lahat. And I think fighting corruption is like that. Good governance is like that. Ang paglaban sa katiwalian ay katulad ng pagiging isang ina. Walang pwedeng mapagod, walang pwedeng magpahinga. And this is exactly the lesson that I am learning by this time. Yesterday, I was in the Senate at 8 o'clock. After the hearing, I have to go back to the office. I left the office past 8 and reached the home at 10 o'clock, only to attend to a lot of emails and a lot of private messages. And this is how exactly we're running the government right now. What is the message? I am not exactly dreaming that I will be able to solve all types of corruption. It is impossible. In fact, I am even saying fighting corruption is not humanly possible. You know why? Because there are no incentives. There are no incentives. On the other hand, there are lots of sources to get hopeless, to be hopeless, right? Before I entered the government, Meron pa po akong mga ilang property na napundar out of my consultancy. Kinikwento ko nga kay Ricky kasi nalungkot ako, nakita ko yung taga-Ayala Land. Naalala ko po ang mga panahon na nag-i-invest ka sa mga pre-selling na units, di ba? You know, it was indeed very sad that I have to return some of them because I don't know if I can continue the amortization because I am only getting 56,000 a month. And if my previous amortization is 75,000 a month, definitely, there will be nothing left for food and nothing left for my own maintenance, right? So I have to give up the unit that I got. And actually, the unit was just turned over to me by Serendra last December 10. I have to give it back before I enter the government. Before I had 2 cars, now I only have 1 car because I couldn't shoulder the cost of gasoline, no? I'm not appealing for financial help or whatever. What I'm telling is as simple as there is no incentive. That's one. Second, when you fight corruption, you're always susceptible. People are always saying, oh, ganyan kaya siya talaga kalinis? Ano kaya ang intention niya? And they will always be having this joke. You know what's the difference between Hayden Co and Heidi Mendoza? Hayden Co has a hidden camera. Hayden pala, no? Hayden Co has a hidden camera. Heidi Mendoza daw has a hidden agenda. O, diba? And it's painful. It's painful because you're working to the max. You have sold some of your properties. You enter very poor. And yet, despite all this, people are looking for your agenda. But then, of course, I believe that we need afflictions in order to sustain our virtues. And when we continue to exercise our virtue, I think we will be hopeful and there will be no place for hopelessness because the Lord has poured out His words into our hearts. When the plea bargain was approved, ang daming tumatawag sa akin, Commissioner, ano pong masasabi mo? Nasayang po ang iyong pinaghirapan. Meron pa pong sinabing, ay dapat tumakbo ka na ng hubot-hubad dahil sinabi mo yan na pag nakawala si Garcia, ay tatakbo ka ng hubot-hubad doon sa Welcome Rotonda, sa Welcome sa Quezon City. Deep inside, people are asking, why is she the only one who remains to be hopeful? Because I said, I need to, if only I wanted to. I need to because I wanted to stay. I need to, if only to uplift all those hope of all those people around. I've been telling Ricky a while ago, anong ginagawa ko sa gabi? Ang ginagawa ko po sa gabi, nagtitiis po ako makipag-private message sa mga OFW. Tinatawanan po ako ng anak ko. Sabi po nung isa, hi ma'am, hello. Sabi ko naman, hi, kumusta? Pero pagod na ako noon, 10 o'clock na. Naligo ka na po? Ano ba ito? Oo. And then, ang kasunod po, alam mo ma'am, mula po nang nakinig ko yung story nyo, nag-enroll na po ako ng accounting at uuwi na po ako sa bansa natin sapagkat palagay ko may pag-asa na. My daughter is always telling me, Ma, why are you wasting your time over this? And I said, anak, alam mo, for all their sacrifices, leaving their own families, going to a strange land, at least may balik ko lang yung feeling na may hope silang uuwi sa bansa nila. Maligaya na ako. Kagabi may kausap naman ako, taga Paris naman, di ba? Paris. Sabi niya, sana ho, Commissioner, pag napagod kayo, lumipad kayo dito para makapagbakasyon kayo, I'll take care of you. Sabi ko po, baka po conflict of interest yan, ma-impeach pa po ako. So what I'm saying is it possible to fight corruption? I think it is. And so we must start. We must start, and this means let us realize that fighting corruption is not the sole responsibility of the government. Rather, it is the responsibility of every citizen. Kaya nga po ako nagsimula talking with governance and citizenship. You are working on supply and chain management. Siguro po hindi problema sa inyo kung paano ba mag-uwi ng pera because it's always part of your ano. Parating nyo sasabihin, ang daming trabaho. Yes, marami. But you know, you should be very, very happy. You know why? Before, kasi maraming trabaho, marami rin naman pong iuwing sweldo. Sa amin po, isang kateba yung trabaho, hindi po nawawala. Pero, ganun din po yung sweldo. Pero hindi po kami nagrereklamo. What I'm really working at is the possibility of trying to uplift the spirit of public servant and convincing them that indeed it is possible to stay honest even in the midst of corruption. And so far, nakatatlong buwan na po, awa ng Diyos, lahat po ng pagkain na pinadadala, lahat ng regalo, pinapabalik po natin. We're changing the rules of the game. But you know, iba rin po talaga yung kultura. Whenever I'm invited to give a talk to a certain place, pupunta po ako doon. Pag nabalitaan po ng mga tao na pupunta ako, they will book a hotel for me. They will try to arrange a car which will pick me up. And they will all be surprised when I say, let me take care of how will I go there and where will I sleep. Ang hirap ding i-reverse ng tradition. Because the tradition is, who has the power is the magnet of attraction, di ba? Kaya lahat, kulag na lang. Pag pumunta ka sa lugar, may magdadala ng bag mo, may magbubukas ng pintuan, but we're trying to reverse this. This afternoon, I tried to squeeze in this important affair because I consider each one of you in the room as equally important as my task back in the office. Because I'm looking at partnership. I'm looking at a potential partnership where people in the private sector working on supply management will have at the top of their heads the interests of the citizens before the interests of the company. I hope this is possible. Thank you very much. Magandang hapon.